Shares for Bitcoin mining companies are reversing course this morning. This comes after double-digit gains miners saw coming off hopes of a spot Bitcoin ETF and a positive outlook for cryptocurrencies in 2024. Let's bring in Yahoo Finance's David Hollerith to give us more details. Hey, David.
Hey, Rochelle. Yeah, Bitcoin has been down, or it's slightly up, but it's been more or less flat over the past week. And the important thing to know about Bitcoin miners is that they have to borrow a lot of money to make upfront purchases for mining equipment. And two notable publicly traded mining firms, Riot and Marathon Digital, have both announced acquisitions. Riot for purchasing more mining equipment, and Marathon to acquire two new Bitcoin mining sites. So they are heavily levered as a result of needing all this debt. So their stocks can be expected to trade fairly volatile. But I would say outside of the on-the-day movements in general, the amount of investment that these firms are taking, given that they're so heavily levered, is sort of one more data point we can take around this optimism for what Bitcoin might look like next year. Obviously, there's the possibility of the Bitcoin spot ETFs to be potentially launched as soon as January, if the SEC grants approval. But we also have a more optimistic macro environment with the possibility of Fed interest rate changes next year, and then also the Bitcoin halving, which is sort of a specific Bitcoin type supply change that happens every 4 years. So in general, I think this is kind of a sign, despite the on-the-day moves, about there's a lot more leverage that industry firms are putting into an optimistic next year for Bitcoin.
And David, speaking of signs and kind of reading the tea leaves, so Cathie Wood, ARK Invest founder and CEO, she also sold the remaining 2.25 million shares in Grayscale Bitcoin and bought over 4 million shares of ProShares Bitcoin. Help us understand what's going on there and kind of what this means for the landscape within Bitcoin.
Yeah, so Wood was on Bloomberg TV this morning, and she also spoke to us earlier in the week. And on Bloomberg, she said that the GBTC shares were sold, one, out of an abundance of caution, given the uncertainty about whether Grayscale would be able to convert their investment trust into an ETF, given the tea leaves of a potential approval for these products in January. She also indicated that GBTC has also had a very good run this year. Earlier this week, when she spoke to us, she admitted that in anticipation for the ETF movement, investors have seen nice profits. And because of Grayscale, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust's historical discount, because it's not a full ETF, it's actually seen much higher return than Bitcoin this year. So they're in a fairly good place to take some profits. ARK is also in the running to gain SEC approval to issue one of these spot Bitcoin ETFs. And speaking with our anchor, Julie Hyman, this week, Wood actually admitted that of the dozen or so potential issuers of these products, if they are all to be cleared, there's still sort of only a chance of 1 to 3 or so, is what she said, winners to take market share. The ETF game is all about liquidity. And I think I would just add to that too. We don't have any clarification on this, but given that ARK is potentially launching an ETF, spot Bitcoin ETF, in the near future, it would make sense that ARK could potentially be taking some of those funds it sold from Grayscale and maybe temporarily parking them in BITO. We don't know this for sure, and eventually putting that money into their own ETF to add sort of a liquidity boost or advantage when these ETFs, or if these ETFs are launched, to help them sort of gain market share.
All right, David Hollerith, always having us covered from Bitcoin to banks. Thank you.